Hi guys, this is Brittany with Zamora WoodWorking. It's a super exciting day today here because we have received our Journeyman upgrade in the mail. So I'm going to run you through what the installation process looks like for this. So we used to have the Onefinity Woodworker, and again, same basic pieces, just with this Journeyman upgrade. So much bigger. We'll be able to do some bigger projects with. We're really excited about. So I'm just going to run you through the informational video today. So don't forget to like, subscribe, share. That really helps out small channels like ours. And then of course, any questions you have or anything you'd like to see from us, feel free to leave a shout out in the comments below. All right, let's get to it.
All right, so for starters, I removed the X gantry and then made sure to remove all motor wires from the motherboard. So you're gonna go ahead and leave this one right where it's at. You're gonna keep it bolted in. Then what you're gonna do is grab your framing square where you're gonna get a perfectly 90-degree angle off your Y rail. And then you'll trace that all the way across your torsion box. All right, next we're gonna go ahead and move these all the way down to the base. Make sure your motor wires are detached and then they move freely. And then we'll just move them all the way down for both. The next thing we're going to do is move this Y rail out about 5 feet, and you're going to measure that from outside to outside. Next step we're going to do is we're going to place the X gantry on top of my Y rails, gently placing it on top of here, lightly screwing things down. We are not going to be bolting down the Y rail down there yet, and you're going to make sure that you're still in line with your front line here. All right, you're going to want to make sure that these are lined up really nice because these screws will have a little bit of play with them eventually. But again, we are lightly tightening them, not 100% getting them all the way down on both sides. Now we're going to focus on the front left over there, the one that I told you make sure it's lined up with your line, the one that's not bolted down yet.
Go.
Okay, so this is that far Y rail, and I'm going to go ahead and just make sure that it is lined up with that first line that I made. So we're just going to pull it up a little bit. Looks good. All right, I've already taken the liberty of pre-drilling for my screw, and so now I'm going to go ahead and put that in. Now we're going to push this X gantry all the way back to the back. Again, this one has no screws in there because it still needs to be able to move. You've got your one up here, and your far one right here is your original one that you've already had bolted down. All right, now that we have the gantry back here, we're going to go ahead and pre-drill and then put in one screw and move the gantry back and forth, make sure there's no resistance. Again, that screw is fitting snug but not too snug.
Go.
All right, now comes the tricky part. So what you're going to want to do is measure from one corner all the way to the opposite end, and then do that for the other corner going the opposite end, so it'll make an X eventually. And you're going to want to make sure that they're the same measurement. If they're not, that means you have to move this rail, this Y rail that you have not fully bolted down yet, back and forth until those measurements are the same. Okay, for this next part, you're going to want to make sure your X gantry is all the way up to the front. Then you're going to grab your Z part here and use this middle part to adjust it, and you're just going to spin it and to get it as close to the middle as you possibly can. Looks good. Okay, next we're going to go ahead and mount this. So what you're going to do is you're going to use the highest set of holes here, mount it on. That's going to give you the lowest setting so you're able to surface your spoil board. Having this right here gave me access to all of these screws. Make sure not to tighten these down too tight because this does have a little bit of play in it. Now let's lower this down. But first you need to find some sort of parallel item to lower this down onto, and I'll show you why that's important in a second. In my case, I use the Onefinity board that they gave us, and then I use my fingers, not powered, to spin this and lower it down. That way I know it's even as it could possibly be, and then I'll trim it up later. So at this point, you are going to want to snug down all of these screws that are holding on the Z gantry. All right, so next we're gonna go ahead and install the router. So you're gonna put it in there, making sure it goes all the way down. Screw this in nice and snug, alternating. I do like to run my cord through the bungee cables. That worked for our last one. We'll see if that works for the Journeyman upgrade. So I want you to make sure your router is facing this way, red button towards you. And I'm going to loosen up these 2 screws here and tuck my power cord in underneath, leaving a little bit of slack. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and move on to mounting our screen. We did choose the larger screen option. So you'll put your arm right here on your Y gantry. It rotates and it attaches by a magnet. Now, we found that this gets knocked off super easily. So we actually foregoed the arm here and made our own little stand for this. So you will find that file linked in the description below for free. We found it's way easier and a lot more handy, and obviously it keeps our equipment safe. So you will plug in your HDMI and 2 USBs through here. One of these USBs is for power, so it does need to be connected to power or else your screen will flicker. Now, it's important to note that your screen needs to be on before you turn on your controller, or else it'll flicker and it can cause a variety of issues if you have the larger screen. But in general, this is always best practice. Now we're gonna go ahead and just hook everything up. So now we're going to start hooking up the rest of our motor cables. You'll notice that in our torsion box here that we have drilled our cables in, and it goes all hollowed out all the way through. This is just to keep wires free and clean from this area, just to make sure that nothing is getting caught anywhere. Really nice way to organize things, and we will have a future video on how we built this torsion box. But we're just going to go ahead and connect it to our Y gantry here. They plug in right down there. It's really simple. Okay, so same thing right here for our other Y gantry, same thing, we've drilled out holes, and this is routed all the way to our connection box there. Okay, so this is our X and our Z motor cables. So Z is gonna go on top right up here, and your X is gonna be on the lower one here, kind of in this little circular area. This is the power cord to our router, and same thing, we've made a little drill hole here to keep wires free and clean, so you will just drop it through there. Again, these are all routed to the controller. So one of the things I want to note here is you always want to make sure that your motor cables and all your wires are really clean. There's a ton of different ways to do it online that they suggest. This is just the one that works the best for us, but you're going to want to make sure they're never in to your machine here. As this comes along, it'll drag, pinch, and just give you a slew of electrical problems, and obviously some machine failure as well. So making sure that everything is nice and clean and through here. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and hook up the Z gantry. So this is our Z gantry motor cables up here. It's a really simple plug-in just right up the top. There we go. Okay, now we're down here at the control box. So you're going to finish hooking up all your motor cables based on how they're labeled. So it's really simple. You have your M1, M2, and they're all labeled as far as what plug that they go into. So you'll finish hooking up the rest of your motor cables there. You'll also notice down here that we have some external power to this table. So our dedicated power to this table. So that will be explained in detail as far as how we did that whenever we do our torsion table video. We've also hooked up the probe, and I'll show you what that looks like above. So we have our probe up here. As you see, we have taken the wire again through our torsion table up through this drill hole here. So that gives us plenty of room to move this about, and then we'll just store that right over here. Again, wires free of everything. Now we'll go ahead and start our startup procedures to check everything out, make sure everything's hooked up. So again, you'll turn your screen on first. There that goes. We'll wait for that to turn on. So whenever you power this up, and it'll say no signal, and that's because you don't have your control box on yet, so that's exactly what you want. You'll come back down here to the control box. There's a button right behind here. You flip it on.
And then I'll grab our controller here and we're gonna go ahead and just test this out and make sure everything works. Alright, looks like we got everything working well. So that all checks out, means we've hooked up everything good. And now we are finished hooking up our machine. Alright guys, so that wraps up today's instructional video on how to take your Onefinity woodworker to the Journeyman upgrade. This is also just a great basic installation video, so it's the same things apply if you're just trying to put together your woodworker as well. We just actually got our Journeyman upgrade in today, so we wanted to give you guys a little video on how the install was. If you guys found anything helpful, anything informational, or you have any questions about anything, please give us a shout out in the comments below. We love to hear from you guys. And of course, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share these. It really always helps out smaller channels like ours. Like I said, we just enjoy hearing from you guys. So we'll get some future videos out as far as the torsion box and a few other things. Next, we will be doing our wasteboard with this. So we'll give you guys an idea of how all this is working with that. All right, thanks so much. And then this is Zamora Woodworking, and we'll see you next time. Bye.